Okay. So the question is, can you stab with a katana? The answer is yes and no. It does have a point, obviously, but it's not really designed for stabbing. It's mainly designed for slashing and cutting. There are some people online that says, yeah, you can stab with one that's got a point, but it's not really optimized for it because one, katana does have a curvature, not that much, not like a tachi where it's really, curved. So there's different ways that you can stab. Obviously, straight on. A lot of times when you do that, you keep it tucked into you and you move the whole body, or you hold it like that, so you stabilize it, you stab, and then you pull it out, and as you do, you clean, the end of the blade. So, unlike, other type of swords, like European swords, they're more designed for stabbing, like a rapier, medieval, like I guess a broadsword, whatnot, or a fencing foil. This has a button, of course, that were just designed basically to stab. That's all it was designed to do, was to stab your opponent, till it became more and more of a sport. That's why they're basically a square or a rectangle kind of blade, and it gets thinner and thinner and thinner till you have the point, which is underneath that button. So, or you got something like this. This is a cheap Arkansas pig sticker, but if you actually look at it, it kind of resembles the European sword. Okay, and it's got really prominent tip that's made for stabbing. So, like I said, someone gave this to me. I gotta clean it up. Now, they do have other types, though, of tips that were designed for stabbing, like a nice okazaki. So you can tell it's more elongated in here than more just rounded off at the end. So this, you could say, is more designed for slashing and stabbing. Another good example is this nagamaki. It too has a really prominent okazaki, which is basically designed to stab. Now the problem with stabbing with a katana is, like I said, it's got a curvature. So it's not basically in line with the target that you're trying to stab because of the curvature. So basically you have to compensate for it. All that. Then you've got, because the Japanese made their blades different ways, different smiths for different reasons. Like this one, again, we have a rounded off tip, but if you look at it, it's not as wide. It's has a really distal taper at the end of the blade. Does it mean that it's better at stabbing? Not really. I found out from my experiences, because a lot of people try and stab their target like that, you know, straight on. If you turn the blade upside down though, stabilize it with your hand, it's going to cut a lot quicker, a lot easier, because when you have the blade down, trying to do this with the katana is kind of hard. When you have the blade down, you don't get much cutting action right away, because you got to get past this tip to cut. But if you turn it upside down, you're going to have more cutting action starting quicker. So, can you stab with a katana? So the answer is yes and no. Yes, you can stab with a katana, but it's a lot more, I wouldn't say difficult, but it is more of a hindrance, per se. Because we've all tried it. You try to stab a water bottle and it just falls over. And most of the time people are stabbing with it this way. But if you turn it upside down and then stab it, you're getting a cutting action a lot quicker. Whereas something like that, it's not going to matter because you have a prominent point. Yeah, this thing looks ugly as shit, I know. But anyways, you got a really prominent tip there, which is designed for stabbing. Now, like a Grossmacer, it also has a rounded tip, so it's not really designed for stabbing. It's designed for slashing and cutting. Now, the Tachis, because they were a shobu, this is not a shobu though, had a really prominent tip. Reason being, European swords in the early days were a nice distal taper with a nice tip on the end, was because of wearing armor, you have to find the gaps and stab somebody, because, well, it's not going to go through armor. Same with the Tachis. But the Tachis also had, like I said, a really deep sori, so this is my opinion, they wouldn't stab straight on. A lot of the times they probably inverted it, so you come up and over and stab, which would work really well because you have such a deep sori. The sori in the middle was like almost 1¼ inches, you know, so that thing was like really, really curved. Intentionally, we have a move where we come up and we come down, and it's a sign of a Tachi move, and what we're trying to do is stop the person from using their left hand to unlock the sword, and you're trying to basically stab them right here in between the thumb and the forefinger. So, it's resemblance of a Tachi move. Using a Tachi sword, you come up and over and down. So, like I said, can you stab with a katana? Well, if you have an okisaki, yeah, it's going to be simple. It's going to be really, really easy. If you have a standard kisaki, it's going to be more difficult to do it. Hence, like that. Because that's not really designed for stabbing. It's designed for cutting and slashing. People say, you know, that the moves that they learn, they stab the stomach, they stab the neck, which we learn that too. And it's probably due, like the stomach area, you've got muscles there, but not as dense as the arms and the legs. Of course, in the neck, there's not that many. And really, to try and stab the neck is kind of difficult. There's a move where we come up to here with the sword and stab somebody. So trying to stab straight on, you can do it. I've seen people even come up like this, trying to optimize the curvature to get that cutting action going. It works sometimes, doesn't work other times. My personal opinion, the best way to get a katana to stab, if you want to, is basically invert the blade. I mean, you can even hold it like that and stab, and then switch your hand back. I mean, so basically it's like that in your hand. Because you can actually turn the blade so it's reversed in your hand just by releasing your grip. So if I release my grip, it just rolls in my hand because of the curvature, offsets it. Because I was looking online and there were some people debating, can you stab with a katana, can you not stab with a katana? Everyone goes, yeah, you can stab with a katana. And they always go to, well, we learn moves in Iaido or European you can't include it because a lot of it was based on stabbing. So, but as far as Iaido, yeah, all of them have a stabbing move. It's whether or not is it practical and optimized for this type of sword. Now, the nice thing about using a katana to stab with is it is very rigid. So that is a plus, whereas European swords were spring steel. And so they were a little bit, they're flexible. You can take them and, by hand and bend them. But the katana is rigid. So yeah, it's actually good for stabbing because it is so rigid, but it's just not designed per se for that, for stabbing. Just like half swording, which is really, from what I see, prevalent in European HEMA, where you grab the blade. Now I'm not going to grab this one because it is sharp. And they're actually just pinching it though. When they do it, from what I see, they're pinching it like that. They're not, it's not all the way, their fingers aren't touching it all the way. They're just pinching it because the blade's sharp. Because that's another thing with a sword. You can put your hand, like I could put my hand on this all day long and just press, okay? And I'm not going to get cut. It don't matter how sharp your sword is. Neither. You can sit there and press your hand on it as much as you want and it's not going to cut you. The reason being is swords have to be in motion in order to work. Same if you're stabbing. So if you're stabbing like this, okay, you've got to get this point to right about there for it to start doing anything. Okay? You turn upside down, cutting action almost starts instantly. Okay? With a katana. Hence, the sword has to be in motion for it to do anything. But in the same aspect, whether or not it's actually designed to do that all plays a factor in how a sword is going to perform. So I just thought I would make a video on that because some people do try to stab and the bottle falls over and whatnot. It is a trick to do. It's not easy, but if you turn it, invert it, the blade is up, it's going to do it almost every single time because you have it in motion and the cutting action is starting a lot quicker than if you have the blade down. Because that curvature, that tip wants to go this way, it wants to go up, you know. Because if I hold this level and you come all the way across, you see how that blade goes up that way, so you're going to miss your target more. But if you invert it, you have to compensate for it. Let me keep this nice and level as possible. The curvature is down. So it's everybody's preference, I would say. But leave a comment down below if you've experienced that, where you go to stab something with a katana and it just falls over, you know, and you're like trying to figure out why it's doing that because you have like a razor's edge on it. That might be it. Turn it upside down. Try it upside down. I played around with it. I tried stabbing a bottle with it, blade down, falls over. I turn it over, stab it, goes right through. So, I don't know. I think it's everybody's preference what they prefer. I prefer, if I'm going to stab with it this way, than with it this way. That's just my personal preference. If I had a European sword, you know, it'd be nice, but unfortunately I don't. Of course, this will stab no matter what. Anything with a protruding tip is basically going to do the job. So, I don't know. You guys tell me what you think. What's your opinion on that? Is the katana designed to stab? Is it a practical thing to do with the katana to stab? You know, leave it in the comments down below, and let's have a kind of a, you could say, a debate on that. That's a good point to bring up because we all try it. Some work, some fail. I don't know. Leave your comments down below and your thoughts. We'll see you later.